Yo, what is going on, everybody? It is your boy Luke Vaughan. I am back with another video, and today we're shooting in 4K, so smash that like button and subscribe. But we have another book breakdown, small little vlog, and we are going over Dr. Carl Hart's book, Drug Use for Grown-Ups, Chasing Liberty in the Land of Fear. So this book is very, I don't want to throw political terms out there, but I guess you could say like a libertarian kind of view, and I kind of read it because I started being interested in libertarian viewpoints, I guess in the aspect of like legalize drugs and possibly legalize all drugs and what the legalization of drugs would do, diving into the different opinions about drug addiction, substance addiction, and substance abuse, and the narrative on drugs and substances. And I think it's very interesting. Not the longest book, but very interesting. And Dr. Carl Hart is a black professor, and he talks about the oppressions that the black community has, specifically with drugs and drug use, and his stance on drugs, especially being a black male professor. And it's very interesting. But he's professor, I believe he's a professor of psychology at the University of Columbia University. Yeah, really smart guy, really interesting perspective. And he's been on a bunch of podcasts. I think he probably has his own podcast, I'm sure. But he's been on Joe Rogan, he's been on Lex Fridman. I think this book came out this year, maybe 2021. Yes, 2021, this book came out this year. It does have some scientific literature as well, so it does get a little complex. But at the end of the day, it's kind of basic and straightforward. And the argument is that there's a narrative on drug use and the way people view specific drugs compared to different drugs like caffeine that sometimes has the same effects as drugs like different amphetamines and uppers. Yeah, it's just really interesting in how the law for crack is over the top compared to cocaine, but compared to what they do to the human body and physiology and your biology, it's basically the same thing, but you could go to jail for like 10 times the amount of time for crack, which is predominantly used in urban societies, compared to coke, which is predominantly used in more affluent societies. So it's really interesting, that aspect as well. You get a little conspiratorial for you. He does explain how each drug was labeled with a specific ethnicity and racial group back in the day, especially in America. And marijuana was with the Mexicans, and they brought it over from the border, and all these different things. And it was really interesting. And black guys would smoke crack and do PCP and would have ultra superhuman powers and beat up police officers and be able to take on 10 police officers with one man. And some police officers swear by that people on crack and on PCP and all cracked out on all these different drugs with mental health issues as well, but that they have all these super strong like ailments that like a normal person wouldn't have, like a superhuman type of strength. And that's really interesting perspective too, because they're really in the field as well. He also goes into the aspect of Portugal, I believe, is completely legalized, like drugs are legal there. And I think there's festivals. He explains how there's festivals and music festivals where people are going to do drugs either way. So now they have testing facilities for you. Go to the testing facility, and before you take the drug at the music festival, they test it and they tell you. It's like, hey, this is pure Molly or ecstasy, whatever you're looking for. Take this amount, drink this amount of water, and this is what you're going to feel. Be safe, blah, 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 blah. They're going to do the drug either way. Or they come back and get a text that, no, this is actually contains fentanyl. Do not take this. This is not Molly. This is not what you're looking for. Do not take this. So now they're saving actually a lot of lives, because people are still going to take the drugs either way. And they should probably just have testing facilities at these rages and these raves and these crazy concerts and these music events. That's just one example. And there is the argument about having, I guess, shoot-up centers where people go and, like heroin users specifically, I think it is, opioid users, instead of having like people doing drugs on the street all scattered over, and you have EMT running around spraying Narcan up all over town, all over the city, going all these different places, taking time. You should probably just have one facility where they're kind of like not going to get arrested for doing drugs, because either way they're going to do the drugs. So instead of having them all skidded around town, hiding out and doing drugs again, either way, they might as well just go to a place where I guess volunteers or workers. I don't know who's going to work there or volunteer there. I wouldn't want to do that, but I guess there are some righteous people that would. And they would, I guess, work there. And there are places, I think in Canada and maybe Portugal as well, where they have these facilities, like these, I guess I'll call them shoot-up centers. and I hate to call them that, where they administer the drugs and help you so you don't miss your veins, and if you overdose, they're right there to help you instead of, again, EMT and doctors and nurses, whatever it is, running around the city trying to save these people. People are scared to call because you don't want to get in trouble. It's like, no, you're allowed to go there, use the drugs, and if anything happens, people are there to save you. And in those countries, it actually, overdoses and things like that have really gone down dramatically. So it's really interesting. And again, I understand people with the argument like, yo, we don't want a society of druggies and drug-ridden people. But the real argument lays with this. All right, so the real argument lays with the crux of alcohol. People get drunk and commit suicide and commit murder and attack people and commit violent crimes. I think a lot of the violent crimes committed are committed by people drunk on alcohol. Most murderers are drunk on alcohol, and most people that get murdered are drunk on alcohol. So there's a lot of problems with alcohol, drink and driving. Right now, I can go to the store, spend $20, $25, maybe even less than that, and drink myself to death. I'm legally allowed to do that. So it's just like, if I'm allowed to do that, then why can't I do everything else? And why can't it all be under the same kind of umbrella and protection? It's just really, it's a really interesting concept. It's really interesting concept because alcohol has a lot of negative side effects and attributes to society and as a substance. But I still think it should be legal. I'm a free American to make that choice. I'm a free human to make that choice and have free will to decide if I want to be drunk. And that's the argument. Like, society has gotten to a point where we realize we cannot keep our job, keep our relationships, have a healthy life if we're drunk all day. And that goes the same for if you're high on heroin or on Oxycontin or on crack or on methamphetamines. You probably can't be high all day and keep your life together. And that's probably, I guess that's the young aspect of me, the young liberal aspect of me, that like I think you should be able to do whatever you want and nobody should really tell you what to do. But I also understand you don't want to go to Wawa and buy a cup of coffee and then get attacked by some guy that's legally allowed to smoke meth or smoke crack or smoke heroin. And it's very interesting. You're gonna have to teach cops like psychology and drugs and substance abuse and substance psychology and all this like chemistry. It's not gonna be easy, and I don't know if it's feasible. It's very optimistic of society. Also in this book, he brought up different stories, how the media kind of changed the stories and changed the narrative and had their own narrative that they pushed. Especially, we'll use an instance that I think a lot of people will know. I think in Miami a few years ago, there was a person that attacked a homeless person and ate his face off. He was eating his face, and I believe a Miami police officer had to shoot him and killed him while he was eating a homeless person's face off of his face. And the narrative was that he was high on bath salts, and it was like this big thing, like, oh, what's bath salts? Like, oh my God, don't do bath salts. You're gonna eat somebody's face. You turn into a cannibal. And like the news was really talking about this. And like I was a little kid at the time, and you know, I guess my whole life every time I hear bath salts, especially like if you go to Bed Bath & Beyond's, I'm thinking like, oh, make sure you don't get your face eaten. And I really thought this. And then Dr. Carhart brought up in the story how later that person had an autopsy, and he didn't even have bath salts in his system. And it's very interesting. Dr. Carhart has tried basically, I'm pretty sure, all the drugs he talks about: heroin, bath salts, MDMA, marijuana, oh my gosh, methamphetamine, all like cocaine, crack, all like the scientific names. He goes into all of it, and the substances and the chemicals, and it's very interesting, very fascinating book, very enlightening, and it is a great book, Dr. Carhart. Please check out my podcast link in the description. I hope one day I will be able to meet people like this and the authors of the books that I read, and I'll be able to have them on my podcast and just expand my mind and expand their mind and get great content. So guys, hope you enjoy this video. Smash that like button, subscribe. We're shooting in 4K, and we're shooting 4K for probably ever. So check out my other videos, and deuces.